Greetings, everyone. My name is Dr. Jay Singh, and I'm the founder of Publication Academy, your online training partner for higher ed career advancement and professional development. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today for this installment of our Career Pathways series, Exiting Academia. Today, we have a fascinating interview with Dr. Manasi Pimple, who successfully transitioned from completing a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences into the exciting industry vertical of biotech. So let's get right into it. Over now to our amazing Publication Academy interviewer, Dr. Gertrude Nantra.
Hey everyone, Dr. G. Nantra here, and today I'm excited to be interviewing Dr. Manasi Pimple. Welcome, Dr. Pimple.
Thank you, G. Really excited to talk to you. Please call me Manasi. That's good.
Okay, absolutely, Manasi. I always like to just in the beginning give the people their flowers, and then we continue. So because you worked hard for that PhD, so just jumping right into it. What's your educational background and what's your PhD in?
Sure. So I actually have a background in pharmacy. So I did my undergrad, which is Bachelor's of Pharmacy back in India. That's where I'm from. I've been in the United States now for about 12 years. That's quite some time. I can't believe I got this far. But actually, grad school motivated me to come to the United States because research is still in its infancy back home. So I wanted to really get in the middle of all that and learn as much as I can about research, and that's what got me to the US. So I did my PhD in, essentially the major was pharmaceutical sciences, but then focused more on molecular medicine and pharmacogenomics. So ended up using a lot of cell and molecular biology to investigate the genome and possibly find drug targets and how treatment would affect different kinds of individuals, especially in breast cancer. That was my focus.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So what led you to consider a career outside of academia?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So I would never call myself a disillusioned academic because I still hold academia to a very high regard. If gotten the chance, I would definitely go back. But I think I was more playing to my strengths. I have always grown up as an extroverted child. My dad kind of brought me up, whereby he used to just force me to talk to people. And it's like, no, you got to learn, you got to learn how to have conversations. You got to learn how to present yourself in social situations. So I learned a lot just growing up and just became extroverted that way. And even in grad school, I wanted to use that to my full strength. So I valued, cross-team collaborations, and new products really excited me. And I think somewhere along the line, I realized that, hey, industry is the place where you can get all of that, right? And hopefully a better paycheck. I'm not going to lie, it's definitely better, right? We all know that. But really, my motivation was just looking at FAS is actually field application scientists that came to our lab to, train or help us troubleshooting. Just seeing them made me realize, hey, this is the kind of, profession that I would really enjoy myself in. And I think it would play to my skills and strengths.
That's amazing that you choose the career based on. I think it's how a lot of, well, maybe not how a lot of people choose careers, but based on the fact that you wanted to talk to people, it's like academia is cool, but I really want to play off of my personality and who I am, and I think that's amazing. Anytime you can do a job where you can weave your personality into it, it's an amazing thing to do. So
For sure.
I want to talk about moving on. I want to talk about how you landed the career you have right now, right? Because for most PhDs, going from a PhD program to a field application scientist role or any other role in industry, there's not always a clear path towards it. So,
Absolutely.
can you talk us through the process you took to find the job you have now?
Absolutely. So, and that is actually, I'm so glad, G, that you touched upon it, because it's very important. No one talks about the journey. Like, even on LinkedIn, you see success stories, you see people in the careers that you want to be. And when I say you, it's, our fellow PhDs who really
Yeah.
want to get where they want to get. So we see that, but we don't see is, what we don't see is the struggle behind it, the journey, the self-learning, and the adventure that people go through to get to that point. And I've always felt that, whenever I set a goal for myself, by the time I reach it, I'm already disillusioned because you've, been through that so much. But it's a great feeling to finally set your eyes on something and achieve it. So, back in my grad school days, as I said, FAS is coming to our lab. It was something about that. I think one of the big facets was troubleshooting. I really love problem solving. I love to take on complex challenges, break it down, and then find a way. So seeing the FAS do that once really told me, okay, that's what I want to be. So it was kind of plain that I definitely wanted that career. Of course, I wanted to know more as to what it entails. It can't be just that, right? There's more facets to it, like the travel aspect and many other things that need to be considered because it's a lifestyle. So one of the biggest things that prevented me from becoming an FAS is experience. Customer facing experience was a big deal.
Mm.
So always in any customer facing role, customer facing experience is something that will be highly valued and required in a lot of places. So I think that is where I hit a bottleneck because you don't get that skill in a PhD. I mean, of course, you have transferable skills that can be applied, but you don't have that checkbox that immediately qualifies you to at least interview for a customer facing role. So I had to get over that barrier first. So it was, a struggle for definitely a struggle to try and convince people that yes, I love being in front of customers, representing a company where I'd be in front of them as a liaison, but it was very hard to prove that without evidence. So to get my proverbial foot in the door, I had experience with NGS and I really loved NGS as a technical field. So my first job out of grad school was for a NGS service provider company as a you can think about it as an in-house tech support liaison. So they had a lot of people that did in-house tech support because, of course, they had a lot of customers and they had that much of a demand. So they had that leeway to hire many people, especially out of grad school directly. So I think one of the hardest things to do is get your proverbial foot in the door. Once you
Mm.
have that and once you start getting experience, it gets easier and easier. But again, getting like the FAS job, so I already knew I wanted that. So I started volunteering for, travel responsibilities, going out with our sales team to visit customers that I already work with. So, put faces to names and just make that relationship. So just putting that you know, extra effort really helped me in getting that experience. And I was trying to get a similar role in the same company, but it turned out that we had to move to Florida because, family reasons. So that enabled me to get to the position that I am right now.
Right. I love that you shared that. So essentially, what you just said is you had a vision for what you wanted to be in field applications, but then you didn't have customer facing experience, so you went and got a job that would allow you to get that experience, but it would leverage the skills that you had acquired from your PhD very, very heavily. And I think that's usually an easier path for many people. Like that's why so many people go into R&D, right? Because
Absolutely.
R&D is like it's just like being in the lab, but it's in a different setting. So in
Yeah.
this case, you were going into something where it's similar to the skills you already had, but it's tech support, so you can talk to people about the science, right?
Right.
And you got that experience, and then because your family had to move, also you were able to leverage that to get the position you actually wanted at a different company. I love it. I love it.
Thank you, G.
I love
That's awesome.
it. And this is where the concept of a good enough for now job comes in. Sometimes you can get so sucked in to I want this and then don't look at anything else, whereby you could, take something that's good enough for now, still uses your skills, but gives you the experience that you can leverage later. And I think that's
Exactly.
great.
The world today has gotten used to instant gratification so much that we want what we want right this second. We that's
Yes,
how the conditioning is happening around us, and I'm sure
yes.
many people will agree to this, right? Any field you take it, any facet of human life. So
Yeah.
I think what if I were to go back and tell my younger self, I would just tell them to be patient and be consistent. So
Mm,
keep your goal, be patient, be consistent, because it's easier said than done. Frustration kicks in. There are other challenges, like, for example, immigration is a big challenge, and that can take a whole different talk by itself. But yes, I faced that challenge. So on top of not having customer facing experience, I had to find an employer that was ready to sponsor me. So
mm.
that was like more like a cherry on top of all the problems I had, right?
Right, right.
So, yeah, I mean, definitely full of challenges, but persistence. If one door
Mm,
closes, you knock on the other one until someone says, "All right, you can come in and we'll see how it goes." Right?
yes, yes. Eventually, and I always tell people that, yeah, sometimes the best advice you can give people is like just persist, right? If this is a path you want to be on, continue to apply, continue to put yourself out there. How much did maybe networking or talking to people about their paths help? Did that play into your story at all?
Absolutely. So, yeah, so I turned to the internet because I'm going to be honest here. I'm a big proponent of academia needing to be more proactive in terms of alternative careers. And
Mm.
for some reason, I absolutely don't like the word transition. I've used it ad nauseum before, but that tells me that, you're doing something really different that people shouldn't be doing. And it, raises all kind of alarm bells.
Mhm.
So, alternative careers, making them mainstream is something that, academia really lacks. And even now, I think some universities are doing great about it, but on a majority scale,
Mm.
that was one of the things that I faced is, if you're not going to academia, there was no other information available. I mean, yes,
Mhm.
there were seminars held and everything, but, the best kind of guidance comes from talking to people that already are in your position that you want to be in, right?
Mm.
So I turned to the internet, try to get resources as much as I can that'll help me to, find people that are in the same position, are in the industry, first of all, and slowly started to kind of build. I won't say like I'm great at networking even now, but trying to build that muscle, trying to get comfortable, because that's also a different arena if you are not used to it. And we are not as grad students, right? We are confined to our own world where, we're doing some amazing research, and that's about it. Yes, we may
Mm.
have collaborators, but they're not in that place, right, where you want to go. So that was one of the biggest things where I had to really teach myself as to how to be, I won't say good at it, but how to do it properly, right? There's people that will not respond to you. There's people that may be even not encouraging. I actually faced people who tried to dissuade me from, trying to achieve that goal. And I was like, I
Wow.
understand that, but I understand your opinions, but don't try to discourage me. Let me do my thing. But I'm so glad I didn't listen to that person. And it's you need people to tell you that don't listen to those people, right? Follow what you want to do and find the right people to talk to, and you will succeed at the end. So
Yeah.
finally, I mean, the best example is I have my current job because of someone I met on LinkedIn. I have
Mm.
gotten so many interviews when I was looking for a job because of people I just met on LinkedIn.
Mm.
So, yeah, networking plays a big role, but it's sometimes it's taken as a what you call it, like an activity by itself that you have to do separately. I think when
Yeah.
it's ingrained as a part of your professional life, it works out for the better rather than treating it as an activity that you have to do because you want these things in life.
Yes, yes. And to your point, right? I've met lots of people who are like, I hate networking. I hate the word networking,
Yes.
and every time I'm telling people, well, if you think of it like you just said, if you think of it as an activity or event that you don't want to go to, then yes, I get why you, because I also don't like to go to networking events. But if you treat it as, like you said, a lifestyle of connecting with people, conversing with people, being useful to other people, you will naturally find yourself building a network that ultimately wants to help you if the time ever arises. And so that's a really good point. That's a really good.
Absolutely. And one thing that I also say all the time in I like to write on LinkedIn too, so I take inspiration from your post. So thank you for inspiring a generation. But one of the things I say about networking is that people tend to treat it like this really selfless, noble act that you're supposed to show that you don't want anything. I don't believe in that because, this world is built on a basis of need.
Mhm.
You are in a position to give me something and I'm asking you really nicely, please, will you help me? And that's it. That's networking, like you don't have to make this as, yes, I understand that there's ways of asking well and not asking well. So that's what needs to be taught.
Mhm.
But just treating networking as like a selfless, noble act where you have to sacrifice everything you got before you get something in return,
Yeah,
I don't believe that. So it should
exactly.
be that stigma should be taken away, and people should just treat networking as it is. Sometimes I will need something, sometimes you need something, so let's help each
Exactly.
other get to where we
Let's
want
help
to
each
get.
other. Exactly. And sometimes you may never need anything from the person, or
Which is fine, so you just
which
pay
is
it
fine
forward, right?
too. You just
Yeah.
keep on, exactly. You just pay it forward. Exactly. So it doesn't have to be complicated. Thank you for saying that. So what does your job now entail on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. So when you say a field application scientist, essentially the term you'll hear a lot is implementation. What does that mean is that we take the product or the machine, or it depends on what your company does, but whatever your company offers as a service or a product, you help customers implement that in their lab setting. So that can be researchers, that could be universities, that could be, diagnostic labs, that could be big industries, pharma companies, anyone who wants to use your product. We're responsible for that technical knowledge transfer so that the client or the researcher in this case can make that technology work for their research purpose. So
Mhm.
we deal a lot with, essentially on a day-to-day basis, we work very closely with sales because, they first get the customers to buy the product. Then we come in, at least in our setting, but there's a lot of FASs that do pre-sales work. So they travel with the salesperson and try to, have that technical resource when customers are trying to make a decision on whether their product is the best suited for their need or not, right? So there's various ways that a company might decide to place their FASs, but it's the main purpose being making sure that the customer can use our technology and be successful with it. So
Yeah.
the job entails travel for sure. Travel percentages are different company to company, position to position. It really depends on what kind of role you're into, what position your company is in. So a lot of factors decide that.
Great, great, great. And so for the person that's thinking, ooh, travel, I'd like to travel,
Yeah,
but this is traveling for work. I'm
yeah,
thinking, you talked about family earlier on.
yeah.
How are you managing travel with family?
Yes, that's an excellent question because almost all of our FASs have families with kids, right? I think it comes to a very inclusive and good company culture and having a leadership team that helps you manage that workload. And a lot of workplaces have really good systems whereby they're supportive of family needs, they're supportive of making sure you're not basically living in a plane or a hotel room, right?
Mhm.
Because that sometimes can happen when things get busy and there's like waves of too much travel, and then sometimes not much travel where you get some downtime. So it really comes to that, which is why we hear all of this talk of company culture and, make sure it's a good culture. But usually people don't know what that is, right? And it's a very ambiguous word before you actually get to experience it. And it's very hard to even judge that. You know that, as I'm sure, but it's very hard to judge that as an outsider. That's why it's best to talk to people who work in that company, and sometimes even that won't get you the right answer, but there are ways you can tell. Like, for example, a company that advertises 80% of travel, which means, say, for example, out of a week, or out of a month, you would be out 3.5 weeks, right? That is basically no time at home. So,
Mhm.
that kind of clues you in as to whether you want that lifestyle or not. And some people are okay with it, right? Where you
Yeah.
don't have family ties or you don't mind living in a hotel room or, being on the plane all the time. So
Mhm.
it really comes down to personal preferences as to what you're okay with and what you're not okay with, and make sure that the company is supportive of that.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And so, this is something that during the interview stage, you need to ask questions about. And, like you said, before even that, because sometimes you may not get an accurate picture from the
Yep.
hiring manager, but you may get a better picture by talking to people at that company. So, that's a very helpful tidbit to follow. In your current role, Manasi, let's talk about transferable skills. And there, I know you first of all started in technical support and then you went into field applications. So for both of these roles, talk about some of the skills that you've used from your PhD.
Absolutely. I think that was a huge thing because, you know, we definitely have transferable skills that we can use, and it's very hard for us to know because no one teaches us that again.
Mhm.
But project management was a big one. So as a grad student, I'm sure every single grad student has dealt with different projects or just different a focus in their research. So even though I have a dissertation thesis, I have helped out in this lab mates project, and I have overseen this master's student. I have trained this intern. So there are four projects right there. So you did four things in your lab that just got you your project management badge, essentially. Then
Mhm.
training and coaching badge, because that becomes important when you're working in a cross-functional collaboration environment. You need to be able to show that you can work as a part of a team, and are not so independent that you can't collaborate in a setting where that kind of work is necessary, and you will not find a place where teamwork is not necessary.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
that is a big one there. So teamwork, project management, collaboration. Your technical skills will definitely be there for the kind of job you're applying, and I think just willingness to learn and just showing that you absorb information very well
Mhm.
goes a long way in telling them that, yes, I may have majored in RNA-seq, but I know you do all kinds of sequencing, and if I mastered that, I can do this too.
Yeah.
So that becomes very important as well. And then trying to think, I'm sure there's so many things that'll come up, but these are the top ones that I can think of.
Mm. So projects management, collaboration and teamwork for sure. And
Coaching and teaching, like
coaching and
other, yeah,
teaching,
grad
coaching and
students.
teaching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big one, especially for FASs, because that's what we do. We train every single level of person that you can find in a lab setting. So
Yes.
technicians, researchers, even like PIs, or sometimes we have lab directors that sign reports that go out to patients. We have
Hmm.
all kinds and all levels of people participating in trainings that we give our customers to acquaint them with the product that we're helping them train. So training and coaching comes a big, long way, and good for grad students that academia focuses on it pretty heavily. So there's like a lot of support offered for, like, being able to teach. So for example, um, our university had this session where you were allowed to teach like one class per month or something like that, or a couple classes per semester to just get your feet wet with teaching. So that
Yes.
right there is your transferable experience that you can
Yes.
leverage as an FAS. And
That's
one of that was also one of the things that brought me to this career. Is like, yeah, it's a lot of teaching. I love teaching, but I'm not sure if I want to do that in academic settings.
yes.
So FAS and industry it is.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. So, when we're chatting earlier, you had talked about one of the hardest parts of doing this was the fact that you didn't have customer facing experience, and also the fact that you were an international student, which is like extra. Are there any other challenges you faced in making this transition?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the biggest thing I realized is, and this is something that always sets me off because I am a big proponent of closing the gap between academia and industry, and still waiting for that to happen. And I would jump to any opportunity to do that. But what I realized is when you are talking to folks in industry, they speak a different language. And when I say different language, it's like just different ways of framing things, different focus, different emphasis, for lack of a better word, but it's just a different framework. So the mindset shift, sorry, that was something that was a eye opener for me, at least. And um, at the expense of bragging about myself, I always like to learn things, and I'm a quick study, so I tend to pick up things, but that's something that is not taught and that will not be explicitly told anywhere. It's a different mindset. So for example, one of the biggest examples I can give you is um, immigration and applying to industry jobs. So a lot of people, and it is rightfully concerning, because you want to able to make sure that you're in a good standing with the immigration law while you are looking for your next opportunity. So a lot of grad students tend to focus on that when they're looking for jobs. I'm not saying don't focus on it. I'm saying first, show your value to the company that's trying to hire people, as long as they have not explicitly said, hey, if you need a visa, don't apply. There are companies who do that. But unless they say that, try to keep an open mind. You never know what can lead you to your position or your dream
Yeah.
job, right? And
Yes.
I'll tell you, there's nothing like a dream job. It's something, that you really enjoy doing, but
Yeah.
things change. You never know that, oh, maybe I wanted this job, but oh, I really like this one that I'm doing right now. So things can come up, opportunities can come up. Keep an open mind and don't fixate on your essentially, I won't call them like cons, but don't fixate on your things that kind of tend to pull you down.
The
So
things that seem like they're disadvantages,
there
right?
you go. Yeah,
And actually, sometimes the things that seem like they're disadvantages can be your advantage. That
it
can be
can.
your can really be your unfair advantage. I remember
Absolutely.
there was a time where I interviewed with an institution. This was an academic institution, and
Yeah.
it was for an administrative role. And so I wasn't going to be in the faculty, but in administration. And I remember that one of the reasons I got the job was because they asked me if I had experience with working with international students. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I
Oh,
was an
wow.
international student. So like I went off on all the experience of international students and how much
Yeah.
support we do and do not get as an international student and
Yeah.
how I would change things if I were,
Yeah.
so it really helped. I ended up getting that job. I passed it on because I got another job. But really, sometimes your unfair advantage comes from the very thing that looks like your disadvantage. So that's a
Absolutely.
really good point. Yeah.
Absolutely. And a lot of people may mistake this, and I want to be clear, don't lie. Like, don't say you
No.
don't need sponsorship, and because that will lead you into all sorts of trouble. So what I'm saying is definitely not that, but keep your options open and don't let it pull you down.
Yeah.
Now that, after coming this way, after, getting my permanent residency, I kind of look back and see, yes, it was challenging. And I don't know how I may, navigated all those, waters back then. It was tricky, but definitely keep your head high and keep going, and efforts will align to what you really want to do, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. What wise last words do you have for somebody who is thinking that, oh, I don't think academia is for me. I want to consider a career outside of academia. I want to consider a field applications role. What advice would you give to that person?
Sure. So the biggest thing being preparation. I'm a big proponent of, again, preparation. Preparation is key, and that's not to say that, hey, I started thinking about this right now because my funding's expiring. I really need a job, so that's probably not a good time to think about it. But it's not too late either, right? That's a good thing that you have finally realized that you want to do something and you want to work towards it. Don't expect it to materialize right away.
Yeah.
Try to map out your steps. Try to talk to people who are in the position as you are, and be patient until you have enough data points to kind of tell yourself that, yes, this is something that I think I will like and I will enjoy, and I'm willing to work towards it. And always ask questions like, what do you think that will be helpful to me when I try to go in this position? Or what skills do you recommend having that? I used to ask a lot, and I definitely got a lot of good responses, and I work towards that. So it's, luck favors those who work hard. I That's something that I think is true. Not all the time, for sure, but most of the times.
Most of the time.
Um, but work consistently and work towards your goal, and you will definitely, probably not instantly, but at some point you will get where you want to be.
Yes. Patience and persistence. Love
Absolutely.
it. Love it. Thank you so much, Manasi, for chatting with me. This was a great conversation.
It was a pleasure and honor, G. Thank you for having me.